Cheers, y'all.
Well.
Ooh, that's the sound of a party starting.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this fine radio program, podcast and video extravaganza known internationally
Hi, Mom.
as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
Those
We're
are all
on
good things.
show number 273 today. And Ian, our brains are shrinking. You and me specifically.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and so we'll talk about that and tell you why. And I got a clue for you. Has something to do with drinking. Drinking leads to shrinking, apparently.
Does that mean my brains are pickled?
Well, no, it just means they're getting smaller.
Smaller.
Yeah, getting smaller. Plus, 11 beers you can never drink again.
Ever?
Ever. Even if you want to. And with many of them, you wouldn't. But, you know, it's still... The fact that I hate when somebody tells me I can't, you know, I've always been kind of like that. You can't do that. Well, I'll show
Well,
you.
Just watch me.
I'll find me a Falstaff. You know what I'm saying? So big thanks,
Falstaff, you said.
Big thanks to last week's guest, Sean Anger from Fox and Seeker. He brought some really wonderful gin, and I think I haven't tried them yet, but I think he sent me his recipe for those cocktails he made.
Nice.
And he kept saying how he was not like a cocktail, you know, maker. He didn't really. So I thought, well, if he made those that good, and he's saying he's not a cocktail maker, I should be able to
crush it, right?
recreate these because I'm also not a cocktail maker, but I'm trying. I told you I tried the what's the rum drink? The one that's kind of sweet.
Mojito?
Yeah, the Mojito. I tried the Mojito, and it was pretty good. I got a pretty good Mojito. So that, if I count the Mojito, I'm up to 4 cocktails that I make that I'm really happy with.
One of my favorite cocktails, I usually start with a glass of whiskey.
Yeah.
And then I'll add a piece of ice.
Right. And that's your cocktail. I could probably do that one. In fact, I'm going to be so bold as to say I've done that one. So I'm up to 5 cocktails I can make. How was your week, buddy? Did you have a good one?
That was pretty good overall.
Well, we should have a fun show today because we have some very interesting things to try. On the Mr. Twirly gig right now is the spirit we're going to try. It's a rum, and I forgot to write it down in the show notes, the name of it, so I'm going to have to ask you to say it or hand me the box. Ron Matusalem.
Matusalem?
Matusalem.
Matusalem. M-A-T-U-S-A-L-E-M.
It's a Grand Reserve of rum.
Matusalem.
And what is it, 21 years?
It's 23,
23. Wow. Well, when you start getting up that high in terms of number of years something's been aged in the rum category, your expectations, the bar gets set pretty high.
Yeah.
So we'll see how we do with this one. But this is I've never seen this before I bought this bottle. So to me, at least, this is brand new. And I do spend a bit of time on the rum aisle, if I do say so myself. So
yes,
yeah,
I understand.
That'll be fun to try. From Real Ale Brewing in Blanco, Texas, we're going to be trying their Crispy Business Lager. And it looks real good, but I have not tasted it. So,
I love this called Crispy Business.
Crispy Business, yeah. Doesn't it sound like a Beck song? I don't know. I don't think it is. I think it's mixed business, but I don't think he has Crispy Business.
Well, I think they're playing off the movie, right?
Yeah, probably so. So
like dancing around in your underwear in a living room kind of thing.
So Harpoon Brewery out of Boston, Massachusetts, one of my early favorite breweries
Harpoons,
in the world.
Outstanding.
They were doing craft beer back when the only real craft breweries I knew were them, Shiner, St. Arnold, Magic Hat, and like Sierra Nevada. You know, this is before I really learned that how much was beginning to happen.
Right.
But back in the 90s when I moved to Boston, discovering that Harpoon IPA was life-changing.
Just eye-opening, right?
Yes, it really was. So today we'll be trying something I believe that's new that they put out called Retro Rye IPA. We talked about this a little bit last week about how rye whiskey and IPAs go together so well. And it's like, well, there's a few of these rye IPAs that have cropped up, and so we'll try Harpoons because, they've got a pretty good track record with this stuff, particularly with IPAs. And then from not far from us, from Garland, Texas, and the Lakewood Brewing Company. Lakewood has this whole Temptress series that they do of their...
We've had a few of those on the
show. Bigger beers. Yeah, today we'll be trying French Toast Temptress. It's an Imperial
man.
Stout, and
Nice.
I didn't even write down in the show notes all of the different things that it has in it or has been done to it, but we'll get that from the bottle when we sample it.
We had a couple years back. We had that chocolate mint Temptress.
Oh,
that was,
it was
like,
so good. It was so good.
Yeah, amazing.
And these, they don't, at least to the best of my knowledge, they don't put these in the big bombers. They're just in the 12-ounce bottles.
Right.
Which is, I think it's kind of cool. Much as I love a bomber, there's a certain hesitation I have about opening one when I'm at home and I'm by myself. I was telling you earlier, I like to sample beers while I do the dishes. It makes the dishes much more interesting, right? So, I'll go to my little beer fridge and I'll look, and sometimes there'll be a bomber of something sitting there I've been really wanting to try. But it's like, am I really gonna have this bomber while I'm doing the dishes?
There's a couple things that happen with that. First off, when you're buying bombers, a lot of times those are higher ABV beers.
Sure.
Now, it's not always,
but most of the time.
But a lot of times it's like a special something. It's usually a bigger beer, not only a bigger bottle physically, but a bigger beer. And so the problem you run into is if you're all by yourself, I was waiting for you to do it, but you didn't do it.
No, I'm holding back my singing for later in the show.
If you're all by yourself, then you have to
pretty good
commit.
Eric Carmen, by the way.
You have to wait till you hear my Aaron Neville. I don't know much, but
that's pretty good, actually.
You just gotta sound like you're about to cry at all times,
and like you're quivering somewhere inside.
You got to commit to the entire bottle, and that's a lot of beer, especially if you're coming in at 10% or 8% and above. I'm not really afraid of one if it's 5 or 6%. That's a couple beers. But man, you start getting to 10, 11. What I got one the other day, it's a barley wine that's like 14.8 or some ridiculous thing like that.
So by the end of the dishes, you're not going to even be caring how you're stacking them. It's like, I think I'm done here.
You're like, I think I did the dishes last night.
I just don't remember turning the water off and coming to bed. Oh, yeah. Well, but when they're in the 12-ounce bottles, it's much easier to go, this is a big beer, but I'm going to try it, Yeah. So anyway, I think that's kind of cool. Or offering them both ways. We will also be talking about a lot of different cigar stuff, cigars to watch for. There's some interesting new things out. And Cigar Aficionado has joined the Right Now Club.
Right now.
Yes, because they have put out a new list of 10 exceptional cigars you should be smoking right now. So we'll take a look at that list as well. Craft beer trends to watch for in 2022. And, of course, we'll tell you about how drinking is shrinking your brain.
Drinking is shrinking your brain.
Yeah. Oh, and how can we forget drinking news? Our drinking news teaser headline today. Who are you calling a turkey? Just out of curiosity, is that a Band-Aid on your finger, or is that something to aid you in playing the guitar
it's
or the
a Band-Aid.
ukulele? Sometimes I've seen guys that had like a Band-Aid on the end of their finger, and I realized, that's so they can do the slide thing,
No, it's actually quite annoying when I'm trying to play guitar.
It is.
That's a Band-Aid. One of my pocket knives the clip got stuck in I keep it in my back pocket. And I didn't realize that it popped open when I stuck my hand in there to get it out. And so I sliced, my thumb really bad.
Ouch, that's not good.
That's not nice.
A knife injury. I would, that's
I mean, I got in this bar brawl.
Yes, thank you. You have to.
It's a way better story that way.
This guy was picking on some defenseless girl, and I came to her aid and defended her honor. Well, anyway, I think we're gonna have a really fun show today. It's been a really busy week for me, but I did have a chance, believe it or not, to smoke a cigar and talk about it. What about you? Did you smoke anything interesting this week?
Well, I had to get up kind of early this morning, and do some stuff this morning, so I did not make it by Casa. But I did sit outside last night with my little buddy heater. I sent you a picture of that.
You did. I was very intrigued by the heater.
And had a cigar. I don't have a whole lot left in my humidor, so I'm back to the super premiums.
Okay. Well, I guess it was a good experience then.
So this is the Rocky Patel white label. This is the Toro at 6.5 inches by 52, so it's a pretty substantial size cigar. So it was nice to actually because I wasn't on any time constraints last night.
Right.
I didn't have to finish a cigar in an hour and rush off anywhere. So I sat out there and lit this baby up. It's got a Connecticut wrapper, Nicaragua binder, and a blend of Honduran, Nicaraguan, and some other undisclosed things for the filler. The appearance, beautiful Connecticut wrapper, classy tan and color, with a white label, silver lettering. It's a beautiful cigar. Like I'm sure the pictures are up right now. Firm feel overall, impeccable construction.
Nice.
This thing, it's kind of one of those things. You know, when you pick up a really nice tool, you can tell that it's a really quality tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a cigar that you can tell costs this much.
Has a certain heft and design
it just has that feel to it, right?
You got it.
The pre-light sniff on this, I got hay, leather, barnyard coffee, and a little mocha at the foot. The pre-light draw, I used a clip, had an effortless draw, creamy coffee, chocolate, slight nuttiness, leather, and a kiss of chicory spice kind of thing.
Interesting.
It's an interesting flavor. There's not much that tastes like chicory, so a lot of times people, I think sometimes will say cayenne because it has a little bit of that same kind of spice.
But chicory is,
but
I don't know.
It's a little more particular than that, and so I found it in a few cigars here and there. Especially when you blend it with the coffee, it tends to have that kind of thing. The initial light spicy blast of white and cayenne pepper. I wouldn't call it a Nicaraguan pepper blast. But it was a spicy bit of white and cayenne pepper kind of thing. Tangy leather, tea leaf, retrohale peppery, and sweet campfire. I don't know how a campfire is sweet, but that's what it did.
Well, I kind of can imagine that,
right?
Because there's a certain campfire is this very certain thing, but if it had just this little bit
sweetness
of,
to it, like someone's got s'mores on it or something, right?
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know. So at this point in time, I did the whiskey sniff.
I
was at home.
Yeah, it's nice.
So I did the whiskey sniff, and I went and smelled a few bourbons. Wasn't hitting the spot, so I went up to my Scotch shelf, and a few of them didn't hit the spot. But then I landed on the Glenmorangie Tale of Cake.
Oh.
And that went right along with it.
That's awesome. It's great when you get that, when you hit that match.
Yeah, I was like, the minute I opened the bottle, put it to my nose, I was like, there it is. That's the one.
That's awesome.
So the first third of this, big smoke, woody notes, spicy coffee, kind of a hearty soup stock kind of fullness to this, to the flavor of the cigar. Sweet cashew-like nuttiness. It has, like, have you ever had that, like, you know, like at my house, I always have the fresh cracked pepper. You ever had the pepper medley? It's got like some of the different colors, the white pepper and the green pepper. And so it had that kind of pepper medley kind of as the foundation with some tangy leather and fresh cut hay notes. The retrohale was peppery with toast and oak flavors, flaky ash, perfect burn.
Nice.
The second third of this, I have to say, birthday cake.
Really?
I mean, it just had this.
Was it sweet or just kind of doughy?
It had a little sweetness to it with a little of that kind of cakey thing going on. And I didn't think it really tasted like the batter. You know how the batter has a certain kind of taste, but the cake itself has.
Right.
It was more like the cake. It had a little bit of that kind of thing to it. Coffee flavors kind of disappeared at this point. Tangy leather notes interplay with earthy spices, sweet nuttiness with a hearty kind of aftertaste. Toast and delicate pastry kind of, even with all this going on, there's toast and this delicate kind of pastry thing going on in the background. The retrohale was sweet, oaky, and toasty. Flaky ash fell right on me. The perfect burn.
I love it. It's so consistent, you know?
Yeah, it fell right on me. The last third of this, the nuttiness moves forward. Pepper remains consistent. Hearty soup stock is more prevalent, along with spices and sweet birthday cake notes. Toasty and pastry flavors surface more often and play nice with the pepper and spices. Oaky dryness and nutty notes linger long after the aftertaste, along with a kind of a fruity, citrusy twang thing that was going on in the aftertaste, but only really towards the end of the cigar where I noticed it. The retrohale is oak, pastry, and a little of that citrusy thing. Flaky ash, perfect burn.
Nice.
This thing, I would say, comes in at about medium strength overall. It kind of fluxed a little bit less and a little bit more at certain parts of the cigar. Like, I'd say the initial light was a little more. The first third of this was a little less. Then it came right back up and went to medium and kind of played between medium and medium plus for the rest of the time. This is an extremely complex cigar. There's so many things going on.
It sounds like it. You've talked about notes and flavors that I don't think you've ever used for a cigar review.
It was all over the place. It went so well with the Scotch too, and the Scotch has some of those notes in it as well. And it was an absolutely wonderful experience.
Cake seems to be the defining factor here. That's what put them together.
$20 for one of these.
Okay, so your expectations are going to be high. Then.
I gave it a 5. You get every bit of that $20 out of it. It's incredibly complex.
That's great.
It's a fun stick to have. My suggestion: if you got an extra 20 to blow, put one of these in your humidor. You're not going to be sad when you pull it out and try it. And we had that discussion last week about how the Connecticut wrappers everyone always thinks those are on the lighter side.
Mm-hmm.
This Connecticut wrapper and solidly medium.
Yeah. Well, it's I've run across a few people who are a little snobby about Rocky Patel's cigars. As if, I think what bothers them is how visible he is, how the cigars have his name, and how he's just, he's Mr. Everywhere. I love Rocky.
He's a beast, man. He's
great.
Awesome.
But you can't smoke a cigar like that and not give him props for blending technique, for being experimental, trying different tobaccos. And the guy is he's everywhere, promoting the cigar industry, promoting his own cigars, and still manages to come up with some of these blends that are just absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely.
I still remember, it was your birthday a number of years ago, and at your birthday get-together, I smoked one of those Rocky Patel, was it
55?
55?
Yeah,
it's kind of an odd shape. That cigar blew my mind. Remember, I kept telling you, this is so good.
Yeah, I think we ended up splitting a box of that soon afterwards,
Yes,
too.
I think we did.
Cigar.
It's a great cigar. Not an easy one to find, but a great cigar. In any case,
it was a large perfecto kind of shape.
And it's kind of weird how it tapers, but it's a great cigar. Well, I had an interesting one this week as well. I smoked the Hoyo de Monterrey Excalibur Black, the Toro.
Oh,
now
I am familiar with that.
You
cigar,
are? Okay.
Yes.
Well, Hoyo de Monterrey is, of course, a classic brand. Yeah. They've spent the last, several of the last few years highlighting their Amistad brand, which is their kind of their sub-brand, which was blended for them by A.J. Fernandez. Every one of those I smoked has been incredible.
Great,
just absolutely fantastic. Since then, though, they've gone back to concentrating on their core line, and the part of their core line in particular that is the Hoyo de Monterrey Excalibur. Mm-hmm. And I used to smoke Excaliburs when I first started smoking cigars. The Hoyo de Monterrey Excalibur was one of my very favorites, but it has been a while since I smoked one. So I was really excited to try this new cigar in their line, the Hoyo de Monterrey Excalibur Black. So the pre-light on this baby was rich tobacco, chocolate, and coffee, a little bit of an oaky note on the draw. And the wrapper is Connecticut broadleaf Maduro. The binder is Ecuadorian Sumatra. And the filler tobacco is from Honduras and Nicaragua. And it was all put together at Rocky's factory in Danley, Honduras. I used my punch and lit the cigar easily, and off we went, despite the presence of Nicaraguan tobacco in the filler. I did not get the Nicaraguan pepper burn. That's my Badberry Gib.
It's cringeworthy.
And I'm going to continue to do that Badberry Gib until you come up with our jingle for Nicaraguan pepper blast.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's very motivating, isn't it? No NPB, no Nicaraguan pepper blast. It did start off with some strength, but not that big boom that I'm used to from a lot of Nicaraguan cigars. Coffee and chocolate were the primary notes in the first third of the cigar, and not necessarily just a mocha mix of coffee and chocolate, but those two flavors were kind of distinct. And in fact, as the cigar smoked, the coffee flavor kind of stayed, and the chocolate, receded a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting to see that happen. I did start to get a little pepper tang on the tongue during this part of the cigar, and the burn just continued. Well, I didn't mention it yet, but it was a really excellent burn. However, the ash it was taunting me. It looked at me, and I decided I couldn't trust it. So I flicked it on the into the ashtray after about 3/4 of an inch. I just knew it was coming.
You knew it was going to happen.
Excellent burn though, and a little bit of don't think I mentioned this, but a little bit of black pepper on the retrohale. And into the second third, I mentioned the coffee stayed. The chocolate was there, but it was less prominent than it was at first. And I did start to get a little of that pepper tang on the tongue during this part of the cigar, which had first been more in the retrohale. And the burn continued its near flawless journey. Slowly but surely, that pepper note that started out primarily in the retrohale in the first part of the cigar, moved to the tongue in the second third. It started to assert its place right next to the coffee. Both of those about equally strong in the cigar by the final third. I did pick up a bit of molasses and some cedar, but coffee and pepper were the primary notes by the end. And those may not sound like something that would work well together, but they really did.
Yeah.
They really just were quite nicely paired. What started out on the milder side of medium, ramped up slowly as the cigar smoked. The burn continued to be spot on. I did confirm my suspicion about the ash not holding on for too long during the second third when it apparently mistook my Bluetooth keyboard for one of your shirts and made a mad dash for it. None of that, though, took away from the enjoyable experiences of the cigar. And it continued to really burn well all the way to the end, which I just have to say, It's really a treat when you get a cigar that burns that well all the way down, and you don't really have to tend it at all. That's I'm used to at least 1 or 2 touch-ups with a lighter on most cigars that I smoke. So that was nice. I enjoyed the Excalibur Black very much. Nice blend of flavors, thick, chewy smoke, and excellent construction. Pretty hard to find anything to complain about, even with my ashy keyboard. The Hoyo de Monterrey Excalibur Black is a $7 to $9 cigar. I looked several different places to see. I think I paid about $8.50 for it, but it was you could get it, especially if you bought a box, for as low as just about $7. I'm going to say thumbs up, and if you can find it for around $7, it definitely punches a little over its weight class, and so at $7, I'd say price to quality of 5.5. And if it's a little more expensive than that, you're at least getting what you pay for, and it's highly recommended.
Nice.
Really good, and it's nice to go to a heritage brand like that, because I have a tendency to smoke, a lot of things that AJ does and Rocky Patels and things like these heritage brands that were some of the brands that I smoked when I first started smoking cigars. Are really doing some great work, and the Hoyo de Monterrey Excalibur Black is a nice example of that. So
yeah, they do. They make great cigars overall. Those were some of the early cigars that I got into when I started realizing I liked something a little more than
a little more than
mild.
the
I liked a little more
and,
into the medium flavor and even into the medium full. I'm always curious because my ash incident last night.
Yeah,
I kind of saw. I've gotten to the point where I can kind of look at the ash and tell
if it's coming for you or not.
I feel like it's thinking about it. So I tipped the first ash and the second ash, and then I trusted it.
Yeah,
don't trust an ash. and it knew too, because I pulled it out of my mouth and I looked at it and I went, oh, I need to tip this. And the minute I said it, as I barely started moving towards. Bam! It just
sometimes you can see that little line starting to form around the base of the ash that lets you know this one's just about to drop. and you hear the Jaws music in your head, the way it always is. All right, we have a lot to do and talk about on the show today, and we have things to taste. So coming up, we're going to break into this crispy business lager from Real Ale Brewing Company, Blanco, Texas. That will be coming up. We'll also tell you about Cigar Aficionado's 10 exceptional cigars that you should smoke right now. Smoking and toasting. Welcome back, my friends. It's Smoking and Toasting. It's the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we love talking about and enjoying all three of those things.
I had that flash moment when you said, welcome back, my friends. I was thinking to the show that
never ends.
We're so glad you could attend. Come inside.
See, we're showing our age by even knowing what that is.
Carnival number 9.
And I always thought it was pronounced for the longest time. I was certain it was supposed to be pronounced Carnival, which was so cool, you know. So welcome back to the show that never ends, apparently. We are so glad to have you here. And Cigar Aficionado, which is, you know, probably the most respected, you know, magazine in the cigar world. I'm personally a fan of Cigar Snob.
Cigar Snob, I like. I like both of them. It depends on what you're looking for. Cigar Snob, I think, feels sometimes a little more down to earth.
Maybe so.
And Cigar Aficionado is a little more.
Could be a little more
lifestyles
snooty.
of the rich and famous.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing.
They're not quite the Rob Report, but they're definitely leaning in that direction.
They definitely are upholding an image, and that's in its way that's very cool.
And they love to show you, $5,000 watches and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah, so it's but it's a good magazine. It's an enjoyable read, and I find that they're usually pretty spot on in their cigar reviews and in their tastings. So they put out a new list. And it had it is a list of smokes. They say tremendous smokes, some of which scored 95 points, which they say is an instant classic on their 100.
That's pretty high. You'll see
scale.
91s and 92s, but you don't see much above that.
In the December edition of Cigar Aficionado, they say more than half of the cigars they reviewed in that issue scored 90 points or higher. So that's pretty impressive. And they say these 10 examples impressed their panel with profound richness and outstanding complexity. Some are harder to find than others and may be expensive, but all are more than worthy of occupying valuable real estate in your humidor, their words.
Nice. Bruce Stark says, smoking a Macanudo Inspirato Orange. This is not a mild cigar like everyone refers to when they say Macanudo to refer to mild cigars.
No.
This is definitely a medium, if
yeah,
not a little
and
more.
You may remember I smoked the Macanudo. I did the tasting notes on that Macanudo, the red label one.
Yeah.
And it was definitely not a mild cigar. It wasn't like, a diesel, but it had some strength to it. It was actually a very good cigar. But if you go for the typical Connecticut wrapper Macanudo, you're going to get a light.
Well, it's kind of like when I think Punch, I think the friendly side of medium.
Right,
like,
exactly.
That's kind of where they live.
Punch makes good cigars.
Yeah,
really
absolutely. But I kind of lump them into that's where their cigars kind of live.
Yeah, absolutely. Buenaventura Cremas C100 from Nicaragua is a 93-point cigar. Now, 93, and if you remember, Ian, Buenaventura is those cigars you sometimes go to when you want really good value because they're not high priced.
They're less, $5 and less. A lot of them.
Yep. This particular one, $6. It's the Cremas C100, and they even say in the review, how often does a 93-point cigar retail for only $6? Not often enough.
Not very often.
But they say it's creamy and nutty, and they recommend it. It's one of their 10. The Cohiba Piramides Extra from Cuba scored a 93.
Not go for $6.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. It was the first torpedo to be part of Cohiba's permanent range, and it is an elegant composition, they say. It's the extra in its name is due to its length, as it's a little bit longer and a little bit thicker than standard Cuban Piramides. A cigar that I've had and absolutely love, the AJ Fernandez Diaz de Gloria Short Churchill.
Yeah.
He culled tobacco from his 4 oldest farms in Esteli and composed a blend that he calls an homage to the glory days of the Cuban cigar industry before Castro. There's no Cuban tobacco here, but the cigar is a wonderful expression of specific Nicaraguan terroir. I will tell you, one of the shapes, I think it's the Grande from Diaz de Gloria, or maybe it's the Toro. I forget, but it's definitely a little bit thicker than this. But it is a regular in my humidor rotation because when I want that,
and that's a light press, like almost an oval kind of press.
It's got like a light press, and it's about an $8 cigar.
Mm-hmm.
And when I want something that's got that really harkens back to that Cuban vibe, that's where I go. The Diplomatico Reserva Exclusivo Caribe. No, I did not make that up. Diplomaticos Reserva Exclusivo Caribe. It's a Cuban cigar. They scored it 93 points. They say next time you find yourself in the Caribbean, be sure to ask about this particular Diplomaticos to see if you can find it. They say it was made just for the Caribbean markets, and they found it to be exceptional. The Espinosa Habano Lancero. Is it Lancero or Lancero?
It's the size, I believe it's Lancero.
Maybe Lancero. All right.
Like a Lance.
It's a Nicaraguan cigar that came in at 92 points, and they recommend it highly. The Hoyo de Nicaragua, and I always struggle with this word, Antaño, 1970, Grand Consul. Hoyo de Nicaragua, Antaño, 1970 Grand Consul. Nicaraguan, 92 points and a 60 ring gauge. It's like a really fat pyramid is what it is.
The whole Antaño series is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. The Monte Cristo Petite No. 2 from Cuba. Yeah. I mean, I've had that cigar. It's fantastic. The Padron Family Reserve No. 50. Picardo. Picardo, Classico, Toro. I have a natural Toro. I have not had this. It's a Nicaraguan cigar. It is from Tabacalera Picardo. This is one I'm going to have to look for because I don't think I've seen it and I certainly haven't smoked it. And finally, the Ramon Allones Specially Selected. It's a Cuban cigar. So a number of Cubans here, a number of things that may be hard to find, but take special note of the Hoyo de Nicaragua Antaño, the Espinosa, the Buenaventura, and the Diaz de Gloria from A.J. Fernandez. Those are all cigars to seek out, and they won't
the Hoyo that you talked about on there has a very deceptively simple packaging.
Yes, it does.
As well. That Antaño, if I remember correctly, it's a small label and then just a little label underneath that says Antaño.
And it's just a short, fat pyramid, which sounds like fun, doesn't it? Let's do some tasting.
I have been.
You're ahead of me. So we're talking real ale, and these guys, I'm so impressed with them. They're out in the hill country of Texas in Blanco, and they have been brewing for some time. I want to say
they have
since '96.
They have some absolute classic beers that are available all the time in this area. So I don't know how regionally they're out, but they're Fireman's 4.
That is a wonderful beer. That's an amber, right?
It's a blonde ale.
It's a blonde. Okay.
Their Fireman's 4 is a go-to. I absolutely love. You can buy in the Bombers if you go to Specs or somewhere that has the Bombers.
You can get a Fireman's Bomber.
You can get their Wee Heavy. It's called Real Heavy.
Yes, Real Heavy.
It's $5.
That's
and
great.
It's outstanding. You can get their Quad Ale, which is a Belgian style quad, for $5 in a Bomber, and it is outstanding. They have so many good beers, and then every year there's like they used to have a release party for their coffee porter. It was an absolute phenomenon when it came out. It is still to this day one of the best coffee beers.
So tell me about the lager, the Crispy Business. What do you think?
So Crispy Business it's like a less hoppy brother to the Fireman 4. It's absolutely delicious.
It really is good. It's so crisp. I know that's in the name, but
it is. But it's got this malty roundness, and then it finishes super crispy and snap. It's almost just gone like that. And it has a little more carbonation than I was kind of expecting, but the carbonation kind of works with that crispiness. I think that's a part of it.
I am often not a fan of highly carbonated beers, but in this case, you're absolutely right. It works perfectly.
No, this kind of dances the right way, so to speak.
It really does. It really does. And I will tell you, in a year when so many craft breweries in 2021 really got serious about lagers and pilsners, it's a fine representation of that, because I'm pretty sure this is something I came up with more recently.
Wiki Brian reminded me Devil's Backbone is one of theirs.
That's so good. That's so freaking good.
And by the way, the cost of a 6-pack of Devil's Backbone is the same as every other thing out there, but it's also at like 8% or some ridiculousness.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you think about some of the beers that we've talked about that'll do a 4-pack for like $16, $17, or even into $20, that's a really good deal.
You can buy a 12-pack of Devil's Backbone for like $15, $16 and are all like 8%. You will be jacked up.
This one is 4.5% alcohol by volume, and it just drinks really nice. I mean, this would be, I hope this is still available in the summer and it's not a limited thing, because this would be a great hot summer afternoon beer.
The can is so 80s.
Yeah.
Like it's
like you're watching Tron.
Yeah, that's it. What was the Tron spinoff? Automan.
Oh wow, you've got a good memory for those kind of things, my friend. Yeah, it is like Tron. And you remember how mind blowing Tron was when it first came out?
Yeah, that was.
I mean,
crazy.
when you watch it now, you're like, but when it first came out, it was like, well, oh yeah, are you kidding me?
It was a terrible video game.
Yeah,
we loved it though.
We loved it. We really did. We really did. Well, I'm going to give this a huge thumbs up. I like this a lot.
It's fantastic.
Crispy business, and Real Ale, continues keeping their bar set very high. I think these guys kind of know.
They
what
also
they're
make
doing.
an American barley wine called Sisyphus.
Oh, the Sisyphus. That is Real Ale. I
American
forgot about
wine.
that. Yeah.
It's not one of my favorites because it's just hoppy.
Yeah.
For me. It's good. In what it is, but it's hoppy.
In general, you like European barley wines or European style barley wines much more than you like American, because the American barley wines are a little hoppier. And they, in general, there are exceptions, of course, but in general, they're a little hoppier and probably a little more carbonated.
See, to me, putting that much hop onto into a barley wine is kind of like, let's imagine you order a pizza, right?
Right.
And then someone puts pineapple on it.
There are people who like pineapple on their pizza.
It's really awkward.
I'm not one of those people, but there are people who
that's
love
what an American. That's what those hops do to a barley wine.
Almost every pizzeria offers a pizza with pineapple.
And you can't pick the pineapple off of it. Why? Because it left everything sweet underneath it anyways. It's not going to work.
I used to work with
stuck with it.
I used to work with a guy back in my very early radio days when we were all making, literally tens of dollars a month. And it was
you should try being a musician.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm talking about here. So he lived in a house that he rented with his sister, right? And his sister worked at Little Caesars Pizza. And she would often be working the last shift before they closed. Now, Little Caesars, at the time, I think they still don't, but at the time, they did not do delivery. You called Little Caesars, told them what pizza you wanted. They said it'll be ready in 20 minutes or whatever, and you drove to Little Caesars and picked up your pizza. And so they had this scheme. The guy that I worked with and his sister who worked there, he would call in about 15 minutes before closing time and order a pineapple and jalapeno pizza. Yeah. And so they would make it. And then, of course, no one would ever show up to pick it up. And at the end of the shift, the manager would always say, all right, we got this pizza left. Who wants it? Well, if it's a, meat lovers or if it's a loaded veggie pizza, you're going to have plenty of takers. Pineapple and jalapeno, nobody wanted it. That's how they ate dinner most of the time.
Right.
So they got the free pizza.
That's pretty funny. So I did use the pineapple reference, by the way.
Yeah.
In a snarky way, because I noticed that my future brother-in-law is watching the show, and he's actually a pineapple.
He likes the pineapple pizza. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it really brought his inclusion in the family into.
But we were talking though about
into suspect.
Yeah, I understand. I understand this. We were talking though about hops and barley wines, and I think I don't have the same issue with it that you do. But then I like my barley wines without chewy parts. And you're totally okay with that. So it's just
boy, have I got a beer for you. I'm going to bring it in next week.
If it's called Chunky. All right, I'll try it. I'll try anything. I tried Malort twice, thanks to you.
Fortunately, you didn't know it either time until you drank it.
Oh man, you can't sneak it up on me again.
Though. No, you'll recognize the smell.
My nose will know now.
Yes.
Yeah, it fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. But American barley wines, I've liked some of the ones we've had on the show a little more than you did. Mm-hmm. But I understand where you're coming from. Hops does seem to be less of an important element of the barley wine, particularly really noticeably stronger and more aromatic.
Well, hops are a bittering agent, an aromatic agent, and also a preservative. So it's an important part of beer. I mean, you don't brew a whole lot of beers without hops. They all have some hops to it.
Right.
But it's just that extra amount, and it's a very American thing to do, is to go, hey, more. Mm-hmm. And I get it.
Yeah.
I'm behind that in a lot of ways, but that's one particular thing that I think that's not my favorite kind, and I think the flavors. The hops tend to take over that beer in a
bitterness.
Way that's not pleasant to my palate.
Yeah, I understand. By the way, it's just interesting. I've gotten caught up lately in watching these about 8-minute YouTube videos that are like rare historical photos.
Oh, I love that.
So they put like a little, piano music or something.
They're not that rare, but they are fun and interesting.
They're fun and interesting, and they're captioned. I was watching one this week, and it showed two men harvesting hops, and this is from like the 1800s, and the hop bushes, trees, whatever, they're hugely tall, and these guys are on stilts harvesting the hops. Yeah. I thought, now they have automatic hop picker machines, but I just thought, the things we've had to do throughout history to get our beer.
To make beer, yes.
But we thank those people, and you were pioneers, and we appreciate the work and sacrifice that has gone before.
OnStark apparently likes pineapple on pizza, too.
Oh, see? There's a lot of people out there. But not pineapple and jalapeno, I'll bet.
Not pineapple.
I don't think anybody likes that.
I do love jalapeno on pizza, but it's got to be fresh cut jalapeno, not the pickled
Not
jalapenos.
the pickled kind.
I'm not a big fan of pickled jalapenos unless they're like house-made pickled jalapenos. Like there's some barbecue places around here
that have some good ones.
Where the jalapenos are not, out of the jar at Sam's.
For those of you who are not from Texas, the jalapeno is kind of like a state thing. I mean, I'm surprised it's not our state
Everywhere
bird,
else eats pickles, we eat jalapenos. Yeah, right. Kind of the same way.
Exactly.
And sometimes alongside and simultaneously with pickles.
And that can be really delicious, as a matter of fact. Yeah. All right, let's take a break, and we will come back. We've got still more to talk about on the show. We have Cigars to Watch For still coming up. And we want to talk to you about 11 beers that you can never drink again. So we'll get into that coming up. Nice. It's Smoking and Toasting.
You get another beer?
Yes, sir. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. This is the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. An interesting guy originally from Russia, is the founder of Stoli, or Stolichnaya. I don't think I pronounced that quite right, but close enough. He was a Russian-born billionaire. His name is Yuri Sheffler. He was exiled from Russia in 2000. Guess why?
Why?
Because he was opposed to Putin. Oh. So Putin had him kicked out of the country because he voiced his opposition to Putin. Now, this is a very important Russian businessman. He owns Stoli. He's a billionaire, and he was exiled from Russia by Putin. And now, and Stoli, by the way, is no longer made in Russia because he's not there anymore. So it's made in the United States. I want to say it's made in Ohio.
Is everyone pulling that from the shelves now?
Well, I don't know if that's happened, but he is officially rebranding after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. He's officially rebranding Stolichnaya as just Stoli. That's all it'll say, and it will no longer say Russian vodka. Because it was originally a Russian vodka. Yeah. It's not made in Russia anymore. And he's just like, it's just going to be Stoli from now on. So for those of you who are, deciding not to drink Russian vodka in favor of something else, you're okay with Stoli. He's given the finger to Putin once again and saying, nope, I'm not going to have anything to do with Russia or what's going on there now, even in my product. And in a way, that is a bit of a sacrifice, because before all this stuff happened, you did always have a tendency to think of Russian vodka as maybe being the purest vodka. Yeah, it's the Russian spirit, if you think about it that way. But of course, now it's the Austin, Texas spirit because of Tito's and Dripping Springs and all that. But no, seriously though, Stoli does make good vodka. Yeah, it's very, very, very good.
That's been a mainstay in the industry for a lot of years. It's interesting to hear that story. I hope that story spreads,
right?
Because I know there's a lot of people that are a lot of stores and a lot of places that are pulling Russian products.
Well, and we talked about it last week. They're pulling them off the shelves, and people are refusing to buy them, opting instead for Belvedere or Tito's or one of my favorites, Space City vodka. I love Space City vodka. It's very inexpensive. It's very good, and of course the Fox and Seeker vodka is terrific too. So we recommend that rather highly, my friends. Let's do a little more beer tasting here. This is a shorter segment, so why don't we get right to the Harpoon Rye IPA?
Retro Rye IPA, 6.5%.
And I will just say, and although I will tell you that I've had IPAs from other breweries now that have probably supplanted my original absolute favorite IPA in the world, which was Harpoon. That beer is incredible. I remember.
But you know, so sometimes our favorite things, they don't have to be the most amazing things. They can be something that brings you back to a time and place.
Well, that's 100% true. I remember back when I'd lived in Boston for about 3 or 4 years. I'd become a fan of Harpoon, and I remember I was sitting in a neighborhood bar that was not far from my house, and I was all by myself. I was just sitting there having a Harpoon IPA.
All by yourself.
You do better at the song, inclusions in the show than I do. I just want to say that. So maybe it's because you're a musician and I'm a DJ. I sing with headphones on, too. It's just that nobody wants my mic to be on when I'm doing that. No, I remember sitting in this bar. I was having a Harpoon IPA, as I was prone to do at that time. And I just remember having this moment where I thought, this is the best beer in the world. It was just, that's how big of an impact it made on me at the time, and how it really opened up and expanded my palate because, prior to that, I really wasn't into the hoppier beers. And, when a lot of people, when we have them, sometimes they're guests on the show, they go, yeah, I'm not really that into IPAs. And that usually means that you just haven't developed, I think, a taste for hoppier things. When I first started drinking IPAs, I didn't like the really super hoppy IPAs, and now I can appreciate them. They may not be my favorite in the IPA world, but I can appreciate them for what they are.
See, I'm oddly extremist. I like IPAs that are balanced. That's, to me, is the most important thing. But I do love some absolutely extreme IPAs. I mean, Dogfish Head 120 minute.
Well, yeah, that's about as extreme as you can get.
That's
it's
pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Arrogant Bastard is hoppy as all can be.
Yeah. And Stone, are you kidding me?
Stone IPA is just unbelievable.
Stone has some IPAs that will almost wrestle you to the ground.
Ghost in the Machine.
Yeah, but see, Ghost in the Machine, because it's hazy and juicy. To me, you don't really get the hop bitter.
But it's pretty extreme.
It's wonderfully extreme. So let's talk about Harpoon's Retro Rye IPA. It is a seasonal for Harpoon, which is out of Boston. And it doesn't really tell us too much on the can, except it says that it's a seasonal IPA. It's 6.5%, and they call it a modern throwback. Your thoughts, sir?
It tastes like grapefruit.
Really?
Try it.
Oh, you're right. There's an absolute grapefruit note there. No question about it.
I mean, it's not just a grapefruit note. It tastes like grapefruit.
I do like grapefruit. Boy,
I
the
keep getting
finish
bounced. I keep getting bounced off of Facebook for some reason.
Oh, well.
I'm going to have to let it go.
Yeah, I think it's Russian hackers.
It has to be. This was happening last week, too.
This is a very interesting bit. Do you get the rye?
Maybe there's a rye spice about the middle of the palate. There's a rye finish kind of thing, maybe.
And it's not.
But frankly, the citrus, the grapefruit in this really kind of overpowers everything else.
I get the sense, though, that unlike other, like hazies, for example, that have a grapefruit or a citrus finish that finish a little sweet, this still finishes pretty bitter.
Yeah,
I like it, but I don't know if this is to your palate or not.
I probably wouldn't reach for more than one of these. It's drinkable. It's not like I get
the original.
I wouldn't reach for a second one.
The original Harpoon IPA, which I still believe is their best seller, although I think actually their best seller now is their UFO, which is their Hefeweizen. That has really caught on for them.
Yeah, that's it.
But the original Harpoon IPA, it's the one word I would use to describe it is floral. It's just got this bouquet of like floral flavors. This does not have that at all.
Okay, so apparently our online feed is going down. That's what's happening. I don't know why it's doing
it. So it just keeps going down. That's very strange. Well, remember, guys, you can always check out Smoking and Toasting in our YouTube video. You can see the full, the full video presentation, and that can be important because occasionally we're showing photos that are worthwhile, right?
So anyway, as far as this beer goes, though, this is not something I reach for again. This is a little one-dimensional to me. I think Harpoon IPA as their regular IPA is fantastic. Yeah. I think it's a great balanced IPA.
I will say I get a little bit of that rye though on the finish, and I do wonder how this would go with a rye whiskey.
I will tell you though, with the right meal, like a lemon pepper chicken or maybe a blackened fish of some sort. Would probably be pretty okay with this. I think that this is one of those things that would go with something like that, even though by itself I'm not really a big fan of.
Maybe like a big Cajun blackened fish.
Yeah.
Oh. Making me hungry,
jambalaya.
All right. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. We got more to do here. We'll see if we can figure out anything on the feed, and apologize for that. Cigars to watch for coming up. Oh, and a cigar that you might want to bid on, Ian. I'll tell you about that coming up.
All right. Oh me, oh my, oh. That's frustrating.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. We are so thrilled to have you here, if you are here. We've had some trouble with the video feed. I think Facebook has changed a bunch of stuff up besides just their name.
Yeah, and they're playing with us.
Yeah, I think they're messing around with us. We have had trouble with the Facebook feed for quite some time. Of course, the show is always posted on Facebook after, and so we'll have that, and we'll do the whole thing on YouTube as well.
That's always available on YouTube. Always available
in addition to all the podcast downloads. Yeah. When we first started doing podcasts, people kind of look at you funny, like, podcast? Oh, you do a podcast. Now podcasts are the hottest thing ever, So I was just trying to give us credit for being ahead of the curve. I don't know if it worked. But
no, and part of it, too, is, so let's talk about what it really boils down to, right? This is talk radio for the new generation.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So let's go back 20 years for me and you.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to talk radio? Mm-mm. You want to be caught listening to talk radio? That's what old men listen to, right?
Right. It was really designed for people like 65 and older, I think.
Right? Yeah.
So, there's a few shows.
But I think, and there's always sports programs and stuff like that. But most people didn't. They wanted to listen to like new hip music and stuff like that. No one pulls up jamming some talk radio,
Hey, there's aliens in the White House, and you're like, wow.
I will tell you, there's a lot of late nights coming home from bars where I listen to Art Bell.
Well, that was my Alex Jones impression, by the way. I don't know if you caught that or not.
And George Norrie.
I tell you what, back in my
Art Bell.
Yeah, back in my dating days, I can remember driving home a few very, very late night / early mornings and listening to some show on talk radio here. It was like Captain Mickey, and he was he would tell you all about the hot spots to fish in Galveston Bay, and it was very interesting in a weird sort of 4 a.m. kind of way.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just
So talk shows are funny because I'll every once in a while I'm just tired of listening to music, so I'll put on AM radio and flip through channels and see if I can find something. I've listened to there's a guy named Randy Lemon. He does the Garden Line Variety Show in the morning, and I have nothing to do with any kind of garden or taking care of my lawn, except for sometimes I throw some blades across it.
Yeah, right, exactly. But you're listening to him tell you how to care for your...
But he's entertaining to listen to. I've actually met the guy.
It's kind of like the car talk guys. It's like, I don't repair cars, but they're funny.
They're fun to listen to, interesting stuff. I really kind of enjoy that sometimes. So, and late nights, it was always Coast to Coast with either George Norrie or Coast to Coast with Art Bell. Those were the fun shows. But so let's go with now. There's so many podcasts, which is kind of like the modern talk show.
Right.
But now there's so many that are about what you might be interested in.
You can find one that's about your interest. It's out there.
And when there's
it may be good, it may be bad, but it's out there.
Right. When there's so many of them out there, and you can listen to this, they're incredibly popular now.
Yeah. And you can listen to them kind of on your own time. You can listen to them, call them up when you want to, when you're on the treadmill or working in the yard or whatever you're doing. So it's kind of fun. So Ian, I know you're not a big sports fan, But a lot of people that are big sports fans bid really big on sports memorabilia. A red 1984 Bulls jersey from Michael Jordan's rookie season sold for a whopping $692,000.
Wow, that's
just
an
2 years ago.
shirt.
Yeah. A red Chicago Bulls jersey from his rookie season.
An expensive jersey.
An expensive jersey, yes, absolutely. A pair of his game-worn Air Jordans, the actual shoes he wore in a game, $775,516. Same year. A rare ticket stub from the first game he played in the league, Michael Jordan, sold for $260,000 a couple of months ago.
Wow.
Now, I know even if you were a sports fan, you wouldn't have that kind of money to buy memorabilia. No. But what if I could get you something kind of cool and interesting for like around $500?
What you talking about?
I'm talking about the remains of a cigar that Michael Jordan smoked. There's actually video of him smoking this cigar to authenticate that it is, in fact, a Michael Jordan smoked cigar. What's left of it. And it's up for auction right now. Starting price was $550 or $500. As of 2 days ago, it was up to $550.
Yeah, what's that saying? One man's garbage and so on.
I suppose that's true, but I was thinking about this. Like, if you let's say you got it for $575, right? Say you're a big Michael Jordan fan. $575, and you get the cigar. They ship it to you. It's authentic. You got everything going for you, right? And would there ever come that time when your humidor gets empty enough that you'd think about polishing off what was left of the $575 Michael Jordan cigar?
It's probably stale by now.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Stale.
Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I will not be bidding. I love Michael Jordan, but I will not be bidding on the Michael Jordan cigar.
So don't get me wrong. I like sports, but I can't fathom. I have my own heroes, guitar playing heroes, and everything. But I can't imagine myself bidding $500 on a cigar that Joe Pass smoked.
I got it. I understand where you're coming from here.
And don't get me wrong, I love Joe Pass.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's amazing.
Or Grant Green,
you
name it, Eddie Van Halen. Randy Rhoads.
Would you bid any amount of money on a cigar that Randy Rhoads smoked?
If Randy Rhoads touring underwear came up for sale, that's just not something I want from him.
I got it. I'm with you.
You know what I mean?
I'm with you. So would you bid on if Randy Rhoads smoked a cigar and it was up for auction? Would you bid on it?
No.
Yeah, I don't want somebody's used cigar.
I don't want that. That's a used cigar.
Somebody apparently has already bid on it, though. It went from $500 to $550 on Michael Jordan.
There's a neat story. But also, let's talk about this. Like, for instance, let's say Michael Jordan came over to your house.
Yeah.
Right. And you have video of him smoking a cigar at your house, putting that cigar in the ashtray, and then you take that cigar and you put it in a little thing with a picture of Michael Jordan, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a story. Michael Jordan was at my house. Now, you sell that thing, and I buy it for $500.
Mm-hmm.
You know what my story is?
What?
I bought a used cigar for $500. That's a crappy story, man. I'm sorry, but that's just a crap. That shows that shows bad choices.
Back in the '90s, when I was doing Top 40 radio, I gave away as a prize on my show candy that I stole from Richard Marx's house. This is a true story. And I really did steal the candy from Richard Marx's house.
Awesome.
I got invited to some event. It was in Los Angeles, and I went to it, and they showed us a movie, a rough cut of a movie that had Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger in it, and the sort of end credit song was a new single from Richard Marx. I don't remember the name of it now, but it went on to be a hit when it came out. And so the whole thing was about Richard Marx, and so they took us to see the movie. And then they put us on this bus, and we drove up through the Hollywood Hills to Richard Marx's house, where two things happened that I will remember to this day. The first was I went inside his house and stole some candy out of the candy dish, which I brought back and gave away as a prize on my radio show.
That's brilliant.
The second thing was I realized that I'm standing there watching Richard Marx do a little impromptu acoustic concert in his backyard. I turn to my left, and I realize that I'm standing next to Fee Waybill from the Tubes.
Nice.
And I geek out big time because I was a big Tubes fan. And so I introduced myself and said, "What are you doing here?" This is a true story. And Fee Waybill looks at me and goes, "Richard Marx and I are like besties." Well, he didn't say besties because people didn't say that back then.
Right.
He said, "Richard Marx and I are like best friends." So there you go. Kudos to you, Richard Marx. You hang out with some cool people. We're hanging out with a bottle of rum right now. This is and I'm going to have to read it off the box here. It's the Ron Matusalem Grand Reserva rum. It's 23. It's a 23-year aged blend, and the things that they write here are in this really weird script that it's kind of difficult.
So the 23-year age blend. On a rum, this is a little misleading if you're used to whiskey.
Right.
So in whiskey, it's the age of the liquid, how long it's been in the barrel, that kind of thing.
Right.
In rum, it's that there is some portion of this is blended with the 23-year-old.
Right.
But not the whole thing.
They say it's a 20. The Grand Reserva 23 is a multi-vintage blend made from the very best reserves of añejo rums. Using the Solera system, we marry mature rum and oak barrels to create a blend with superior quality, smoothness, and taste. Today, we produce our rum in the Dominican Republic using a closely guarded family recipe, which has been handed down from generation to generation since 1872. So there you go.
There you have it.
And you've already tasted, so what do you think, sir?
Rubbery.
Rubbery, really? That's interesting because they do this. Of course, it's a blend, so you never the rums may be sourced from all over the world, but I don't think of Dominican rums as being rubbery. I think Jamaican rums.
What do you think when you taste? Because it's got a rubbery component to it, and I kind of like it, to be honest. I like that rubbery, and it's not a super sweet rum. It's got a little bit of a rubbery
pretty good.
All the words that I have for this are not going to make it sound good, but it's pretty tasty.
Right. Well, and we've talked about this before with rum. Rubbery does not seem like it would be something that you would like.
Right.
And yet some of the best rums in the world are very rubbery. It's just no other way to quite describe that. If rubber were delicious, this is what it would taste like, right? It's the best way I can say it. There is definitely some molasses and vanilla in there.
Yeah.
At least notes of that, not real molasses and vanilla, because this is all just rum. But
it's interesting. Well, this is aged, right? So
yeah.
So I'm sure it's picking up something from the barrels and even an oak, but there's a lot of oak in there.
Yeah,
like big time oak, like dry out the side of your tongue oak, and again in a good way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, they do say that they rested in oak barrels. To create a blend with superior quality, smoothness, and taste.
Yeah, so this is a nice blend. It's interesting because the very first sip I took, I had kind of a knee-jerk reaction of, I'm not sure that I like that. But then the second, once my palate was adjusted a little bit, the second
we did just have a Rye Ipa.
Right. The second sip was much nicer, and I like it. It's got a little bit of heat to it.
It does.
Even at it's proof down to 40.
Mm-hmm.
And it does have a little bit of heat to it, and kind of a there's that little rubberiness and that kind of a chemical kind of flavor as well. But again, in
everything
kind of
you're saying sounds like it's not good. Yeah,
it sounds awkward and weird, but it's good.
The only thing awkward about this to me is the rum hug that I get about 20 seconds after you swallow the rum.
It's interesting. It smells a little different. It smells a little more vanilla and oak.
And the vanilla and oak are definitely in there.
And rum.
But you get that rubberiness, which you don't necessarily smell.
You know what it doesn't have? It doesn't have that rum bite that a lot of times you get with the right at the very front of the palate. It's incredibly kind at the beginning of the palate.
I think that could be, though, because this is only 40 proof. This is not some of the rums you're thinking of that have that. Maybe the higher proof rums.
But it is caramely.
Yeah, I think it's delicious. It's a little different than like the Papas Pilar or some of the ones that we've had like that have got many of these same flavors. This just feels like it blends them together in such a different way. There's so many rums.
I can't imagine using this in any kind of mixed drink either.
I can't either.
Like this is
definitely just for
sipping kind of.
It would be interesting to see what an ice cube would do to this.
Right.
You know, see if it opened up and made the flavors expand, made them any more broad. You know.
And it is oily. Look at what it does to the glass. There. It just sticks to the glass.
Mm-hmm.
It's not real. It's not real viscous, but it is oily.
Very interesting. I'm enjoying this.
What does a bottle of this run?
I think it's around 45.
Yeah.
And every time, and as good as this is, it calls to mind something, because I've mentioned this before. There are two rums we always have in the bar in our house. Mary loves both of these rums.
And they're both
plantation.
And I do too.
And they're both plantations. Yeah. And they are the plantation pineapple and the plantation Isle of Fiji.
Oh, yeah.
We buy those regularly. One of the reasons that it's so easy to do that is because they're about half the cost of this. Just a little more than
that. Isle of Fiji has become my absolute go-to.
It's just wonderful. And it's so inexpensive. I'm sometimes shocked as we watch, because when we first started doing the show, I could get a bottle of rum similar to this in the $30 range.
Yeah.
They're now in the $40 range or
Everything's
more.
Going up,
and you can
it's
find,
all Putin's fault.
Yes, it is. We're going to blame him regardless of whether it's fault or not, whether it's his fault or not. But you can find rums now in the $100 and $150 range, and that was very rare when we first started the show. There's just much more of it out there. And I will say, by the way, if you're going to spend that much on a rum, you definitely want the Flor de Caña.
The 25.
The 25. Oof. Oh, my God, that rum.
That's amazing.
That's just one of the most amazing things I've ever tasted. It's just
absolutely
fantastic. Yeah. So, and thanks to the Flor de Caña. The Flor de Caña guys gifted us a bottle of that. Remember, in the special thing, and had smoking and toasted on it. Yeah.
You know what sucks is when I empty that bottle, I have to buy another one and pour it into that.
And that's an expensive rum to buy.
And that's an expensive bottle.
And it feels wrong to pour cheaper rum in there.
No, you can't do that.
It just feels like a bad...
especially once it says smoking and toasting on
it feels like a bad thing to do.
I mean, come on.
All right, let's take a break and come back. And we're really excited about the next segment on the show for two reasons, actually. The first is, of course, because we are going to bring you our tasting thoughts on the French Toast Temptress Imperial Stout from Lakewood Brewing. Which right now feels like it would marry with this rum. I mean, I haven't tasted it, but it seems like, just mentally, that might be pretty good with this little rum. Yeah. So we'll be trying that, and that's one of the reasons I think you want to stick around for the next segment. The second, of course, is a little thing we like to call Drinking News. And our Drinking News teaser headline, by the way, who are you calling a turkey? You did get the photo, right? In the beginning, there was rum. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. It is show number 273. Our brains are shrinking. We still have to tell you about that. We still have to tell you about 11 beers that you can never drink again. But all of that goes on hold for a moment because, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the showstopper part of our program. This has developed somehow, weirdly, into the most popular part of Smoking and Toasting.
So my buddy Josh that always listens to this on his program, I happen to be riding in the truck with him.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was listening to Smoking and Toasting?
He had it on. He listens to us in 1.5 and sometimes 2 times speed.
Oh, to get through the show faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how fast he listens to us.
So I better sound like this.
It's hilarious to listen to us. He also goes, oh, listen what happens when you slow it down. Cruze, when they slow your voice down, you just sound drunk the whole time. Even at the beginning of the show.
I was going to say I probably am, but maybe not at the beginning of the show.
So I want to do just one little chorus here, and I want to do this really slow so that when he's listening to this, it sounds more like the actual time because he's got it sped up.
Okay.
So I just want to do one little drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. So we'll see if that helps out with.
And at some point in time, we need to put a show together where randomly we slowed certain segments down, and then sometimes we talk really fast the whole time just to really, really mess with them.
I like this. If we talk too fast, it'd be just ridiculous sped up, right?
We just sound like a bee.
Reminds me of an episode of the original series of Star Trek. Well, here at Drinking News, we really just like to have a little fun and enjoy stories about a Florida man that has behaved in a wonderfully Florida way, like, you know, wearing a T-shirt that says "F the police" to court, or using their private plane to fly in a manner that draws a giant penis on the radar map. Those things really happen, by the way. We have done those stories, yeah. But sometimes we have to get a little bit more serious and let you, our devoted Drinking News fans, know about an impending danger that could bring you mental or bodily harm. No, I'm not talking about the threat from Russia and their deranged leader. Although, isn't it nice that we now don't have the craziest leader in the world anymore? I mean, thank you, Putin.
I saw an article about how a French restaurant was asked if they were going to take poutine off of their thing because they thought it was Putin.
Yeah.
That's vastly different people.
I just figured no matter what your political leanings, you have to admit our last guy was a little bit nuts, but now that seems like nothing compared to, Vladimir. But it's not that. That's not the danger I'm talking about. It's not global warming, and it's not a new variant of COVID-19. It's not even the constant threat that Cardi B will record another album.
Egad.
It's the very scary and very real problem of the growing number of attacks from aggressive, menacing, evil turkeys.
Turkeys can be gnarly.
I know what you're thinking. That does actually sound like the plot of a new M. Night Shyamalan movie. And yes, that would be really, really terrible. But the fact is, turkey attacks are on the rise across America. And they appear to be targeted in many cases at the people who deliver us our mail. A mail carrier in Sacramento, California, had to do battle with an attacking turkey last week and actually wound up killing the bird in the battle. Witnesses wrote in posts on the social media app Nextdoor that a mail carrier, after being accosted by a particularly aggressive turkey, retrieved a pole or stick from his vehicle and used it to defend himself like a lightsaber, killing the turkey in the process. The U.S. Postal Service has launched an investigation, but they admit that they've had a number of incidents with aggressive turkeys in the last several months.
Wasn't it George Washington that actually recommended the turkey be the national bird instead of the eagle?
I know that. I don't know if it was George Washington, but I know that did happen. There was a recommendation that the turkey be the national
turkeys
bird.
Are gnarly critters, man.
Thank God that didn't go through. Thank God somebody with more common sense voted that down. Can you imagine national bird and it's this weird-looking thing with a hanging neck?
That will attack you.
That will attack you, yeah. Captain Patrick Foy, a spokesman with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, said in an interview, "We're having a huge problem with extremely aggressive turkeys that are actually attacking mail carriers, especially in this one particular neighborhood. When I say attacked," he says, it's physical contact. They are jumping on them. And the mental image of the turkey jumping on the postman.
Listen, these turkeys are watching too many violent movies.
When I can speak. I haven't had that. I see, though, why I sound drunk when you slow down the it's because I am. When an initial investigation, that is hard to say, into the renegade turkeys was inconclusive, they sent in a wildlife biologist to examine the situation. The biologist,
henceforth known as a gang specialist.
Yeah. The biologist observed 4 turkeys actively, aggressively go after a mail carrier when he got out of his mail truck, Foy said. They surrounded him. Can you imagine? You're the postal carrier. You get out of the mail truck, you got your bag of mail, you're taking, and you're surrounded by angry turkeys.
Surrounded by turkeys.
Yeah. Foy said that Fish and Wildlife attempted to capture some of these aggressive turkeys, but they have been unsuccessful. In the meantime, Foy said, postal carriers have started to defend themselves by swinging their mail bags at turkeys, kicking at them, or using pepper spray. I just love that visual. None of these tactics, however, seem to work.
Until you get a Cajun turkey,
yeah.
And then that sucker just follows you around once you spray him.
Foy described the turkey from last week's incident, the one that the postal carrier killed, as, quote, the biggest turkey I've ever seen, end quote. Other incidents have included one turkey that smashed into the window of an oral surgeon's office in Fair Oaks, California, clawing up dentist chairs and cabinets. In an effort to try and explain the growing animosity of these weirdly shaped birds, I reached out to Miss Tammy, a telephone psychic who advertises on late-night cable TV that she specializes in being able to talk to animals that have passed on.
I just saw the picture.
Yeah, the picture's worth a gazillion words on this one. According to Miss Tammy, the bird that was killed by the mailman told her that his species has become growingly and increasingly resentful of their treatment by humans, who feed and care for them just fine until November every year, when they're rounded up and eaten for everyone's Thanksgiving dinner. The spirit of the turkey, who Miss Tammy said was named Leopold, said that his kind was banding together to combat what he called the Great Turkey Genocide. He also
so these are all jive turkeys.
Yeah, he also reportedly told her that the first wave of their resistance was designed to cripple the U.S. Postal Service. And he said to tell the mail carrier that beat him with a stick that his turkey brothers would be coming for him. In an unrelated proclamation, Miss Tammy also told me that a dog that I had once as a little boy loved and missed me, and he thinks of me fondly every day from the great beyond. So what have we learned here? Well, first, that our government should do something to protect our mail carriers from these blatant attacks. I don't know about you, but I sure don't want them to have problems delivering my Victoria's Secret catalog that usually arrives about this time every year. So there is that.
I don't even know what to say, really. It's
We should also beware of this mentality spreading to other animals. The last thing we need to do is have to defend ourselves from cows, who, in addition to the fact that they can't be happy about being eaten, are likely still a little pissed about that cow tipping thing.
So turkeys are just trying to climb the food chain.
Yeah,
they're trying to get one more rung.
And finally, and perhaps most important, I can attest to you personally that spending $1.99 per minute to get information from a telephone psychic is hands down the stupidest thing that a person can do with their money. We all know that talking to dead turkeys is a bunch of crap, and that Miss Tammy and her kind are preying on vulnerable people, and that needs to stop.
Miss Tammy knows that I'm not going to call.
Although she did mention that my deceased puppy says that I drink too much. So at least you got that part right. This is the world we live in, my friends, and that is your
drinking news. Drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Oh, man.
Sometimes you got to play with timing.
Yes.
It's comedic timing.
It's funny to us. That's the thing. My wife talks about this all the time, that there's something weird about your sense of humor and mine, because we have a tendency to find things funny that other people don't, but both of us do. And
it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
The more times you tell a joke, the funnier it gets.
Well, that's a basic tenet of comedy.
The more times you tell a joke,
the funnier it
gets.
Yeah, my wife does not feel that way.
That's why we're repetitive.
That's right. And we've been accused of being repetitive, and we resemble that remark. We actually do. We got a beer to taste here, Ian, and I am looking at it and practically salivating as it turns on Mr. Twirligig. This is the French Toast Temptress, and I'm going to let you read all the stuff.
This is the Seduction series, sir.
Mm-hmm. From Lakewood Brewing. And our friends at Lakewood Brewing are in Garland, Texas.
Yeah, so you got a plaid, looks like a picnic blanket for the cover, and then
And once you do the pouring, I'll let you read all that.
Maple leaf.
I'll let you read all that stuff it says that they include and have done to this. Oh, boy. Now, it doesn't look very viscous. but it definitely is dark and wonderful looking.
Yeah, it doesn't pour real thick.
Which kind of surprises me. I was expecting, given all the stuff that they say about it on the bottle.
Oh, this smells like it should go right over French toast. So, that magical moment when you cascade a perfectly stacked plate of French toast with rich and gooey maple syrup. Yep, we bottled it. I'm waiting for your reaction before I move on this.
Oh, man, it does smell like a stack of flapjacks.
It does.
It really does. It smells like French toast for sure.
Indulge in sweet cinnamon. Yeah, French toast where you burnt the edges just the tiniest little bit.
Yeah, you got that little burnt cinnamon thing going on.
Indulge in sweet cinnamon and vanilla balanced with bold notes of semi-sweet chocolate and a touch of maple syrup.
Honestly, I have to say, breakfast is my favorite meal. And I don't eat breakfast a lot.
Breakfast is
but sometimes
good.
on the weekend, my wife will make a great breakfast. Or sometimes she says, I'm trying to put together like some menus for this week for dinner. What do you want? I said, well, one night I want breakfast.
Breakfast?
Breakfast at dinner is awesome.
You know, we're the only country that really just thinks of eggs solely as breakfast food.
Really? That's interesting.
Lots of other countries have eggs for dinner.
Do they have French toast for dinner?
I don't know.
No, they should.
I mean, I wonder if French people do that.
Based on what I'm smelling here, they
French
should.
Toast or French fries. Since the Temptress so easily mingles with bold flavors and ingredients, we created the Seduction series, limited variations of our sinfully sultry brew. Pairs well with Berta beef. I guess that's Alberta.
Oh, okay.
Because
gotcha.
I think I made maple leaf on the front. You know.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
gotta be
Berta
Canadian.
beef. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, they're from Garland, Texas, actually, but who knows? They could be Canadian by heritage. So.
Those Canucks. I don't know how derogatory is that. Can I get in trouble for that?
I don't know. I think
Canadians are such nice and friendly people.
Yeah, they're very friendly people.
I hope they take that as a joke, you know.
I think I've heard Canadians call themselves Canucks, but that doesn't always mean that it's appropriate for someone else to call them that. We can think of some very...
There's that. If I messed up, just let me know.
Yeah. If there's any Canucks listening who we've offended, please let us know. We'll drop that word from our vocabulary.
That's right.
Yeah.
Chocolate-covered espresso beans... And it pairs well with breakfast, apparently. This beer is not obviously for breakfast, just for breakfast anymore. Best enjoyed 50 to 55. We probably have this pretty close to that.
Yeah. Let me see that bottle just for just a minute. Because it says here, under where it says French Toast Temptress, it says ale brewed with lactose and maple syrup and vanilla extract and natural flavor added.
Have you tasted this?
Not yet. I've just smelled it.
I got to see the look on your face when you take a sip.
Wow. I don't know if I've had an Imperial Stout that was named after a food.
Do you know what this is?
What?
This is after you've eaten everything and you scrape everything up and mash it against the back of your fork.
And you've got that last bite with syrup all over it?
And it's mostly syrup with just a little bit of crumbs and burnt stuff and everything. That's what this is.
I don't know if I've ever had an Imperial Stout that was named after a food that tasted as much like that food as this tastes like French toast.
Crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we thicken this up a little bit, it would just be syrup.
Yeah, I think it maybe it's the burnt
it makes
cinnamon.
Me want
bacon. Big time.
Like it really makes me want bacon.
Or back bacon, as they do in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with any kind of bacon, really. 9.1% alcohol by volume.
That is the quote of the show, by the way, today. If you're going back and looking for one line that defines today's show, it's Ian saying, I'm fine with any bacon, really.
Okay, let me qualify that with as long as it's actually bacon, none of that turkey bacon.
Oh, yeah, I'm kind of with you. Although I will eat some, like turkey burgers are good.
So my wife makes turkey burgers that are fantastic. Mm-hmm. I have no problems with that, but turkey when it tries to be bacon is not very good. And it's not that it's even that bad. It's just this very flavorless, or very very obviously imitation.
Right.
It's kind of like taking a turkey and adding some of that liquid smoke and some liquid bacon flavor or something.
I've been thinking about this same thing as it pertains to non-alcoholic beer, which is becoming more and more of a thing all the time. It's like maybe instead of having to feel like you got to go non-alcoholic to still try to get your beer flavor, maybe you just drink a really good beer, but you only have one. You know what I mean?
It's probably not something I'm going to go to myself because, frankly, if I was the DD for the night, I don't need to drink non-alcoholic beer. I think, realistically, I'd just be fine with iced tea or water.
Well, let me put
occasional Dr. Pepper. However, I feel like there are people out there.
You're so Texas, the Dr. Pepper reference.
I feel like there are people out there who maybe, if you have a can of beer in your hand and you're hanging out with friends and stuff like that, it's a very social thing. No one's asking you questions or anything about it. So maybe if you have had some drinking issues and you need to have no alcohol, you can fit in without being obvious about it and not having to talk about it so much.
I'm thinking of it more from like the health standpoint. Like I've tried some of these ice creams that are made out of other stuff, and I've decided that for me, I'd rather just have a very small bowl of Bluebell, like have the real thing, but just don't eat too much of it. You know.
I can go with that. If that's the thing, that's a large part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
I hung out last weekend with some friends that they're very calorie conscious. So they were like, "Do you know a good low ABV or not ABV but low calorie beer?" And I said, "Yes." And so we had I'm blanking on it now.
Is it the Founders All Day IPA?
No, it's the daytime Lagunitas.
Oh, Lagunitas Daytime, yeah.
So we've been doing a little bit of that at the house too, and going for some of the lower ABVs. And I've had Shiner Light Blonde. And,
that's good. I like Shiner Light Blonde.
What was the other one I got? We got the Lagunitas, and then we got another one. And by far, the Lagunitas is just crushing.
Is your favorite, huh? Okay.
Oh. There's another one out that I haven't tried yet.
All Day IPA, though, is quite good.
There's one that's lighthearted ale.
Mm-hmm. I've had that. And you know what else is really good? Slightly Mighty from Dogfish Head.
Right. Oh, Slightly Mighty is the other one I got. It's pretty good, but it's not as good as the Lagunitas.
Interesting. I'm going to have to go back and try that Lagunitas again. Well, no matter what the alcohol content is, according to a new study, just 1 pint of beer or an average glass of wine a day may begin to shrink the overall volume of the brain. That's what we talked about, right? The damage, apparently, this is the really bad news, the damage worsens as the number of daily drinks rises. Uh-oh. Yeah. On average, people at age 50 who drank a pint of beer or a 6-ounce glass of wine a day in the last month had brains that appeared 2 years older than those who drank only a half of a beer, according to one study, which was published recently in the journal Nature. The brains of people who said they drink 3 alcohol units a day had reductions in both white and gray matter that looked as if they had added 3.5 years to the ages of their brains. This is terrible news, by the way.
Not so bueno.
Yeah. And 1 alcohol unit is 10 milliliters or 8 grams of pure alcohol. That means 25 milliliters or a single shot of liquor is 1 unit. A 16-ounce can of beer or cider is 2 units, and a standard 6-ounce glass of wine is 2 units. The brains of non-drinkers who began consuming an average of 1 alcohol unit a day showed the equivalent of half a year of aging, according to the study. Well, at least we're not non-drinkers who just started.
Well, there's that, right?
There's that, right? Yeah, maybe this doesn't apply. I don't know. That's actually frightening.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always thought accusing somebody of having a small brain meant you thought they were.
Here's the question, though: is our brain shrinking anyway?
That's a good question.
Because I bet there's also, as you get older, your brain probably shrinks to some degree by itself. And what they're doing is they're saying you're accelerating that, but they're not saying it so much to make it sound like drinking is terrible.
Hold on.
Because I feel like a lot of times when you see those studies, they present them in a way that that isn't always 100%.
The brain shrinks with increasing age, and there are changes at all levels from molecules to morphology. Incidence of stroke, white matter lesions, and dementia also rise with age, as does the level of memory impairment, and there are changes in the level of neurotransmitters.
So let's point out that this happens anyway.
Yeah.
And that's what they don't tell you.
Right.
Now, they're making it sound terrifying, and it may actually exacerbate the situation. However, how did I get through that sentence? Anyway.
You have restored my faith in humanity. I just wanted you to know that. And here's to you.
I just want to point out, man, that studies, you read those studies, you got to look at the reality of the studies, because on the surface, that makes it sound like drinking is just going to shrink your brain and you're screwed. And if you stop,
right?
Like the implied thing is that if you don't drink, guess what? It doesn't happen.
Right.
That's not true.
And that is not at all true.
That is not true. But they're not going to say that part of it.
You're 100% right.
Especially if it's skewed towards the non-drinking crowd, or written from the perspective of someone who thinks drinking is very bad.
Well, you have saved the day for me. Thank you so much. All right.
Suspect everything, people.
Yeah, that's good.
Trust no one.
I agree with you. All right, I'm looking.
Especially your cat. At least my cat. I can't trust my cat. He's kind of an asshole.
Never trust a cat. I think that's been very well established. All right, so here we go, and pour me a little more of that now that I realize that my brain is shrinking anyway. I'll take some more.
Right, since it's going to
happen.
happen.
More of this French toast surprise.
We can make it happen a little faster.
11 beers you can never drink again. Here we go. Miller High Life Light, not Miller Light. Miller High Life Light.
I don't think
which begs the question: why was this product ever developed? I mean, Miller Lite sells gazillions of bottles a day, and Miller High Life sells, what it sells.
I feel like they could actually have been the exact same beer too.
Might have been,
but it wouldn't matter, because if you have people who drink Miller and they want a lighter beer, they want to drink Miller, or they drink. Actually, who drinks Miller anymore?
Like regular old Miller?
Yeah, I guess you drink Miller High Life, and if you want a light version of that, you can't call it light beer by Miller. It has to be Miller High Life Light.
I suppose so, but it seems like we're splitting hairs here.
I bet we are.
Number 2, I'm a little bummed about, because I used to love this beer, Pete's Wicked Ale.
Yeah.
Do you ever have a Pete's Wicked Ale?
I have.
It was one of the pioneers of the early craft beer movement in the U.S. Pete's was at one time one of the biggest craft breweries around, the first to get national distribution. However,
got bought out, right?
They closed their doors in March of 2011. I didn't realize it was that long ago, which tells you that's how long it's been since I've had a Pete's Wicked Ale. Number 3 is Falstaff. I have been to the home of the original owners of the Falstaff Brewery. It's in St. Louis. It's called the Limp Mansion. The Limp family were the ones that made Falstaff beer, and supposedly it's haunted. I'll have to ask Miss Teresa.
I'm not for or against ghosts or people that believe in them, but I have never personally been bitten by one, so I have absolutely no fear of a ghost.
Midnight Sun M from the Midnight Sun Brewing Company. It was last brewed in 2005, a Belgian-style barley wine that was created to celebrate the 10th anniversary of this Alaskan brewery, and it was an instant hit. But since it was a one-off, it's impossible to get, and at one point, bottles were going for $1,500 on eBay.
What?
Yeah, so look for that if you want. How about Meisterbrow? Have you ever had a Meisterbrow?
No.
Yeah, I remember seeing ads for it and stuff.
I love all the syllables, though.
It became a popular local brew in Chicago at the beginning of the 20th century, but when business slowed in the 70s, Miller Brewing Company bought up Meisterbrow, and in 2005, they phased it out. However, Miller Lite, according to this article, actually evolved from Meisterbrow Light.
Huh.
So there's something to know. The impact is still felt. Again, the beer may be gone, but you can still find a sign with a guy drinking Meisterbrow on sale at Amazon if you're really interested. Pretty Things Jack d'Or. Boston-based Pretty Things Beer and Ale Project was a beloved, whimsical local brewery that some of the more interesting beers on the market in the 2000s came from. They closed their doors in 2015, leaving fans mourning Jack d'Or, which was a tangy, lemony beer they say we'd love to sip again. Southampton Black Raspberry Lambic is number 7. I was never a big Lambic fan. Do you like Lambic?
I like a Lambic once in a while.
Brewed by Long Island Southampton Public House. It's a variation on a traditional beer that was truly unique, they say. Aged in wine barrels for nearly 2 years, Black Raspberry was released to the tune of only 400 bottles directly from the brewery back in 2012. That one is no more. Number 8 on the list is the Goose Island King Henry. King Henry was an English-style barley wine with a caramel flavor that people went nuts for, probably because it was aged in Pappy Van Winkle 23 barrels, the legendary bourbon. It hasn't been brewed since 2011, but Goose Island's bourbon barrel-aged barley wine is also very delicious. 2011, isn't that about when AB bought them?
Oh, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised. Remember, they took away the best lager that Carbach had.
Oh, instantaneously. Yeah. We got a lager on our books already. We don't need that.
This one I don't mind missing. Ice House Edge. Why was there ever a need for ice? Some of these is like, I know why they went extinct. Nobody went, I think so. It was another victim of the Molson Coors Big Cut. It was a high-gravity lager with a dark golden appearance and 8% ABV. A spinoff of Ice House. It was continued just last year, as a matter of fact. Milwaukee's best...
And no one has noticed yet.
Exactly. I would never have known if it wasn't.
This is where when you have one of those Family Guy cutscenes, there's just one guy sitting in his basement going, that was my favorite beer.
Milwaukee's Best Premium is number 10 on the list. It's yet another victim of Molson Coors brand pruning, but the light and ice versions are still brewed. If you're desperate, you may still find it on shelves because it was just discontinued in August of last year. So if you hurry, it may not suck any worse than it would have sucked originally when it was fresh.
If you really, really must have Milwaukee's Best. I can't even finish that sentence.
Thank you for not. Red, White, and Blue Lager is number 11 on the list. Another beer that your parents and grandparents might remember fondly. It's an easy drinker dated from pre-Prohibition days and returned in time for World War II. It was a low-priced brew and moderately popular national seller for decades. I have never had one. A Red, White, and Blue. Have you? Red, White, and Blue Lager.
Is Big Flats 1901 on this?
No, it is not. Is that a beer that's been discontinued?
That was a beer that
I never had one of those.
It was Walgreens beer. And it was Big Flats 1901. But keep in mind, the 1901 was literally part of the name of the beer. But the way they wrote it on there, it made it look like since 1901. No, that was just the name. And it was awful. And it was like $5 for a 6-pack.
Speaking of which, do you remember when Walmart started their own line of craft
and then they
beers?
never really...
I've yet to see one. I remember we went to Walmart to try to find some because we wanted to taste test them. We couldn't find them, and I've never seen them show up.
I'm rarely in a Walmart, but when I do, I go through the beer aisle just to see what they have, and they never have anything like that. Yeah, but that Walgreens Big Flats 1901 was atrocious beer. I mean, egregious beer. I don't know. They're what Gacho Malo. It was absolutely horrible.
I'm looking at Walmart beer. Nope. Domestic beer, craft beer. Nope. I guess it either never came out. Remember, there was actually some issue surrounding it. I don't remember what it was now, but there was some issue surrounding the Walmart beer. Some claim that they made. Oh, I think it was them claiming to be craft beer, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's what put the kibosh on it. But please let us know if you're on the show notes. Have you ever had a Walmart craft beer? Have you ever even seen them in a Walmart?
Yeah, no one I know has ever seen them.
It was a big deal though when they first were supposed to come out. Yeah, now Trader Joe's has their own sort of house craft beer things. The ones I've tried, to be honest, have not been that good.
They're mediocre at best.
They're not terrible. They're just not that good.
Yeah, so I have a buddy of mine that works at Trader Joe's, and I've shopped there a few times. I actually kind of like the shopping experience there. But they do have some house stuff, and their stuff is affordable. And if you're just looking for if you just want a beer, that's not a bad beer. It's just not particularly,
If you're looking for a vanilla cream cookie, they make the best ones in the world.
Really?
The Trader Joe's,
Nice.
Trader Joe's house brand. It's amazing.
Nice.
Like, keep them away from me because I will lose all control. Well, it's interesting. The whole house brand beer thing doesn't seem to have caught on really anywhere. I mean, if you look at somebody like Specs, our big and cool brand here, they'll do like barrel selections with different spirits. Yeah. But we've yet to see a Specs beer where they've teamed up with a brewery and done one.
I think beer in general is a lot more work.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be successful in beer, it's not like something you can make once and then put away and then sell later.
Right.
Like, it has to be a continuous work project, which means there's upkeep, which means there's a lot of places that call themselves breweries, like BJ's and places like that, brew house. And anytime you see a BJ's, their beer is contracted through some local place, like St. Arnold, for instance.
So they're not really a brewery.
They're not, but they have their own recipes, and then they contract it through them. So it's like me saying, hey, I don't have the facilities to make my cake. Can you make it for me, and please use this recipe?
It's kind of like if we did a smoking and toasting cigar and got a cigar blender and manufacturer to basically produce it for us.
Right, very, very much so. Yeah. It's not like we're sitting there rolling it ourselves.
We'd be involved in the selection of the blend, but not in the creation.
And I don't see anything wrong with that.
No,
especially
I don't have a problem with
that. When a lot of these places go to, their local big breweries, like St. Arnold's is one. That's one of the ways St. Arnold's pays bills.
Right, and we're all for that.
They're going to brew. They're going to brew stuff for places that need that, out of house brewing solution. So. And because it doesn't make sense as well if your brewing operation is not that big.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to go buy all the equipment, make it happen for a couple beers, and then let it sit, because you can't let it do that. It either has to be working or not working.
We've talked about this, and we should really get serious about setting it up. I would love to do a home brewery competition where we let different home brewers bring us what they consider to be their finest, and we do a little tasting and declare a smoking and toasting.
We're
home
talking to
winner.
UCCSD.
Yeah, that
Foam
could be fun.
Rangers.
That could be fun.
There's a few others around town.
That could be fun.
Too.
Yeah. All right. Let's work on that and come back to people.
We got to come up with a catchy name for it.
Okay, I'll work on that, or maybe we can get some good catchy name people to work on that. On Stark, you with us? All right, we're going to take a break and come back. I will mention that we have a pretty exciting show planned for next week, because next week's show falls on St. Patrick's Day. How great is that?
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to have a really fun show next week. We'll tell you all about it coming up, plus a little peek into what's coming soon on Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 273. Our brains are shrinking. We went over that, and 11 beers you can never, ever drink again, and probably wouldn't want to.
And a couple of them we don't care about.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned
some good ones in there.
I mentioned the Walgreens beer and a few others. Mm-hmm. Bruce put up AMP used to sell. AMP's a supermarket up around the north and stuff like that. So, like down here we have HEB. But anyway, used to sell No Name beer. Is like the name of it was No Name beer. Oh. He said he returned most of the case still full just to get his deposit back.
I will just say that I wish that I had tried it, but I never did. Back when you could go down the generic aisle in your grocery store, and it was all generic products, and it was just bags of chips that just said corn chips and potato chips. And when you got to the beer, it just said beer on the can. I really wish I had tasted that. Just to know. Yeah. And just to know what that actually did, in fact, taste like. So, I can guarantee it did not taste like French toast Temptress.
Probably not. We've just crushed that bottle, by the way. That's pretty awesome.
It's very, very.
There was
good stuff.
When I worked at H&H Music Store, people used to come in, and the most affordable level of band instrument that you could rent or buy was a company called Jean Eric.
Jean Eric?
Jean Eric.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty tongue in cheek, right?
Yes, it is. Well, there's a lot of creative of creative naming out there, right? But
happens. That was the actual name on the instrument, Jean-Eric.
Well, we should.
It's French, of course.
If we could gather enough of it, it would be fun to do a generic beer taste test. But it would only be slightly more fun than the malt liquor show that we did, which I still remember with horror. Never again.
Did you enjoy the light beer taste testing better than the malt liquor taste testing?
Without doubt, because I didn't keep tasting the light beer for the next several days.
It has a stick to your gut.
The malt liquor I did. It took me a couple of days before I could actually enjoy a real beer again, because that taste was just still there. It was still there.
Man, imagine the hangover from that if you like drank.
Oh. Worst hangover I ever had in my life was from Mad Dog 2020.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I bet the malt liquor hangover is a lot like that.
The Mad Dog 2020.
That was nasty. That was just nasty. It was given to me as a bottle of it was given to me as a gag gift at a party I was at one time.
And it gagged you?
And it did. And then, here's how smart we were. We all thought, it'd be fun to open that and have some. That was not a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, so just so you know, in my brew club, CCSD, occasionally we have what we call 80s night.
Mm-hmm.
And 80s night is when everybody brings 2 40 ounces.
Yeah. Well, there are some things you can get in a 40 ounce that at least are not as bad as malt liquor. like Little King Cream ales you can get in a 40 in some states.
That's not very good.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's not Old English.
That's what
I will
tell you though. After experiencing a few of these 80s nights, which I generally never made it to 80, 40 was enough for me.
Yeah, I hear that
because it's hard to crack open that second one. I mean, ugh. Yeah, I think actually there's still one in the beer fridge up at the clubhouse right now that I couldn't do it.
That's ugly.
But I will tell you that I think. And I'd have to go back and watch the program, but as far as I can remember, Old English is one of the least offensive of them, and is the one that I always end up buying on 80s night. Partially also because one time I was in the D&Q Mart over on Richmond, which is this fantastic little beer store here in Houston if you're in the area. And I was standing at the counter, and I looked over, and I said, are those 40-ounce koozies that say Old English in the shape of a crown? And he looks at me and goes, yes. I said, I think I have to own that. So I get to use mine once every 6 or 8 months whenever we do our 80s night.
Yeah, it's
cool. Funny.
I think I bought a Firestone Walker pint glass there.
Right?
It's just cool.
That's better than a 40-ounce koozie.
Gotta have that. We got a couple of interesting things coming up here on Smoking and Toasting I want to tell you about. The first one will be next week. Ian and I will be hosting the show, and we will be doing a really
no Irish accents.
No Irish accents, we promise. And we promise not to play I Would Walk 500 Miles by the Proclaimers, because that's what everybody does. We can't do it legally anyway. But here's the thing. We are going to do an Irish whiskey blind taste test. And I think this will be fun. Irish whiskey, as we reported here on the show several weeks ago, is poised to overtake Scotch whiskey in sales in the United States this year.
Now, when you say Irish whiskey blind taste test, there's like 3 ways we can take that, okay? Does that mean that we try a bunch of them and one of them might make you go blind? Or does that mean we try enough of them to make ourselves go blind?
That's another way.
Or do we actually blind ourselves and then try them?
I think we blind ourselves and then try them.
Gotcha.
Okay, yeah. No, but the reality is it'll be fun to compare them, side by side, sight unseen, and see which ones we wind up really liking the most.
Yeah, because we've done whiskey and Scotch taste tests, but not a lot of people do Irish whiskey taste.
Yeah, it'll be well, with it becoming such a big deal. I think the timing is perfect. So that's next week, and then the following week on the 24th of March. We are proud to welcome Docs, our good friend Greg Doxakis from Plantation Rum.
Love that guy.
And Michael Garfield together on the show.
I can't wait.
So that's going to be super fun. Yeah, it'll be lots of plantation and lots of, ridiculous talk.
And then we won't be all by ourselves.
No, we will not. The only question is, will we talk about cigars with a Nicaraguan pepper blast? Pepper blast. Isn't that terrible?
So awkward.
It really is.
Do I need to bring somebody in on our blind taste test. Do I need to bring in a third element?
That could work.
Maybe I'll ask
you have somebody
around.
in mind?
Maybe I'll ask around and see if somebody's off work that day.
Ask and see if they have an Irish whiskey they could bring
By
to add
off
to the
work,
test.
I mean,
Yeah, off work.
Long lunch.
Yeah. If that's the case, make sure they have some Irish whiskey they can bring and add to the taste.
I'm going to ask around. Maybe we'll have mystery guest.
Okay. That sounds good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. We have tried some pretty impressive products here. We've had a good time. We talked about attacking turkeys. What more do you want? I mean, you're getting all of this at
when turkeys attack.
At absolutely no cost to you. That's a good thing. We do want to wish you a really awesome week. Have a great one, my friends. And I've got a little bit left here, so I'll use that to toast as we toast out. Do you have? Oh.
I'm out. I just have to.
Oh, well, you got to do something here.
Yeah, there's nothing in there.
All
right, hold on. Music's going.
You better put some rum in there. Well, if you're going to do that, put some rum in mine, too.
A little rum in the cup. Like a little whiskey in the bottle, right?
Also, coming up in 2 weeks, how do you deal with the drunken sailor?
Yarg.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.